All right, strap in, everybody. Today, we are going deep, deep into the Election Commission of India.
The heart of Indian democracy, really.
It is. This is, of course, a must-know for our UPSC folks.
Absolutely.
But even if you are not studying for the exam, understanding this powerful body, the Election Commission.
It's so important for every Indian citizen.
Right. We're going to uncover how they do it, how they make these elections happen.
How it works.
And some of their surprising powers, like, did you know they can basically act as a court in some situations?
It's true.
We'll get into all that and the safeguards that keep them independent from,
Political influence.
Right, exactly.
Lots to uncover.
So to really get a grasp on the Election Commission, let's start with the foundation, right?
We've got to.
Article 324 of the Indian Constitution.
The source of their power.
Yeah. So like their own, constitution, right?
Yeah.
Just for the Election Commission.
In a way, yeah, you can think of it like that.
Okay, so it lays out their mandate, protects their independence.
Just like how the Constitution safeguards the Supreme Court's independence.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Article 324 makes it clear that the Election Commission is not just another government department.
Right.
It's its own independent body.
With a huge responsibility, yeah.
Huge responsibility.
So who are these people running the show? I know there's a chief election commissioner.
There is. It's actually a team at the top.
Okay.
It's the chief election commissioner and two other election commissioners appointed by the president. And get this, their status is equivalent to that of Supreme Court judges.
Whoa, that's a lot of power.
It is.
Has it always been a three-member team?
You've done your research, haven't you?
Well, a little bit.
You're right. For a long time, it was a single-member body.
Just the chief.
Just the chief.
Okay.
But as India's democracy evolved,
Got more complicated.
more complex, elections became more complex.
Right.
The need for a multi-member commission became clear.
I see. So they added two more.
Right. To help with the workload.
Yeah, to split it up. Okay.
There was a little back and forth.
Really?
In the late 80s, early 90s. Added the two, then briefly abolished those posts.
Really?
Only to reintroduce them again in 93.
Oh.
And since then, it's been a three-member team.
Three-member team. Okay.
Right at the top.
So three powerful commissioners, all with equal say, overseeing elections.
That's right.
In the world's largest democracy.
It's a big job.
It's a big job. And how do we make sure that they stay independent?
Right.
With that much power, there has to be something to prevent political influence.
No, remember Article 324. It doesn't just give them power. It very clearly outlines safeguards to ensure their independence.
Okay.
Take the chief election commissioner.
All right.
Removing them from office is as hard as removing a Supreme Court judge.
Really?
It's a serious matter.
For the government can't just get rid of them if they don't like their decision.
Exactly. Needs a special majority in both houses of parliament.
Oh.
Can only be done on very specific grounds, like proven misbehavior or incapacity.
Right.
It's rigorous.
Got to protect them.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure that those in charge of our election integrity are shielded from political pressure.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the chief. What about the other two commissioners?
The other two.
Are they protected the same way?
Well, not to the same extent as the chief.
Okay.
But their removal is still a big deal.
Right.
It has to be initiated on the recommendation of the chief election commissioner.
Okay.
And goes through a pretty rigorous process.
Got it.
It's a balance, right? Allows for accountability, but prevents removals driven by politics.
Right. So we've talked about how they're independent, but what does that let them do? What are their actual powers?
Well, imagine you're a candidate running in an election, right?
Okay.
The Election Commission is going to be there every step of the way.
With you.
Making sure it's a level playing field for all candidates.
Okay, so they're like referees, making sure everybody's playing fair.
That's a good way to put it.
Can they actually penalize anyone who breaks the rules?
Oh, they absolutely can.
They can.
Their powers are extensive.
Wow, okay.
And they fall into three main categories: administrative, advisory, and quasi-judicial.
Quasi-judicial. Whoa, that sounds a little intense.
It does, doesn't it?
What does that even mean for elections?
Basically, it means they can act like a court in some cases.
Really?
Yeah. For example, they can resolve disputes within political parties.
Oh, interesting.
Even decide which party gets which symbol.
Wow, okay.
It's crucial for keeping things fair and orderly during elections.
So they're not just administrators. They have judicial authority, too.
That's right.
Wow. Okay, so what about those other categories? Administrative and advisory, what do those look like?
Okay, so on the administrative side, they manage the whole election process.
Okay.
Everything from voter registration to setting election dates.
Wow, that's a lot.
And on the advisory side, they give guidance to the president and governors on election matters.
Oh.
Things like disqualifying MPs and MLAs.
So they're involved in every stage.
Literally every stage.
From big stuff to small stuff.
They determine constituency boundaries. They make sure voter rolls are accurate.
Yeah.
They scrutinize nominations. They even set the code of conduct for candidates and parties.
Wow. Okay, so they really are guardians of the system.
They are.
Start to finish.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm starting to see the scope of their power. It's not just overseeing, it's shaping the whole election landscape.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I did want to ask about something, though, from the research I did.
Okay.
There's this lack of, specific qualifications to become an election commissioner.
Yeah.
Does that, concern you at all?
Well, it's an interesting point, and it has caused some debate.
Right.
The Constitution doesn't actually say you need this or that to be an election commissioner, but usually they appoint people who have a good understanding of law and governance and, impeccable integrity. It's more tradition than hard rule.
But couldn't that be a problem?
Well, yeah. What if a government decided to appoint someone who isn't really qualified or impartial?
Right.
That's what people are worried about.
What?
They say that putting those qualifications into the Constitution...
It would be better.
...would make it more secure.
Yeah, like having a good lock on your door.
Exactly.
Okay, so how can we make sure the Election Commission stays truly independent and keeps our elections fair?
Well, that's a question that goes beyond just the Election Commission itself.
Right.
It's about building a political culture where everyone values playing fair and respects those institutions.
Yeah.
It's about citizens holding their leaders accountable, demanding transparency.
So it's all of our responsibility.
Exactly. It's a collective effort.
The citizens, the parties, the Election Commission.
It's not just rules. It's a shared commitment.
To democratic values.
To make sure our elections reflect what the people want.
Yeah, okay. This is fascinating. And for our listeners, especially those UPSC aspirants out there.
Pay attention.
This isn't just about an exam.
Right.
It's about understanding how to participate in our democracy.
How it works.
Yeah, how it works. Great point.
The Election Commission is fascinating.
It is.
A little overlooked.
A little bit, yeah.
But so important to our lives.
It is.
When we understand how it works, we're more informed citizens.
Right.
We can engage with our democracy in a meaningful way.
I completely agree. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
But there's still so much more to explore.
Much more to come.
So stay tuned, everybody, as we keep going on this deep dive into the Election Commission of India.
Stay tuned.
We'll be uncovering their guiding principles, how they work on the inside, and the challenges they face in this ever-evolving world of Indian democracy.
It's complex.
It is complex.
But we'll get there.
We'll get there. Stick with it.
Now, we've talked about all this power and structure, but what about the values that guide their actions?
Right. It's not just a machine. Right.
No, not at all.
It's democracy we're talking about. There must be some core principles at play.
Absolutely. The Election Commission is really committed to inclusivity, transparency, ethical conduct.
Okay, so it's not just about the election itself.
Right.
It's about how we get there.
It's about making sure everyone feels like they can participate, that they have the power to vote.
Yeah, so everyone feels like they have a stake in the game.
Exactly. It's not just going through the motions.
Right.
And to achieve that, they have these 10 guiding principles, 10 guiding principles that shape everything they do.
Wow. Okay, can you give us a taste of some of those?
Sure. One that's really important is inclusiveness.
Okay.
They want to make sure every eligible citizen can vote.
No matter what.
No matter their background, no matter their circumstance.
So it's not just about having the right to vote on paper, it's about making that right a reality.
Exactly. They do things like provide Braille ballots for visually impaired voters.
Oh, wow.
They set up polling booths in remote areas.
That's great.
They're always working to remove barriers.
Equal access for everyone.
That's the goal.
What else is important to them?
Transparency.
Okay.
They want to be open and accountable.
Makes sense.
They want citizens to understand the process, to trust that it's fair.
Yeah, because transparency builds trust.
Exactly.
And that's essential for a healthy democracy.
It is. So they do things like making voter rolls public.
Okay.
Election results. They have election observers.
Oh, interesting.
Both domestic and international.
To keep an eye on things.
To make sure everything's above board.
So every step is open for everyone to see.
That's the idea. No room for suspicion.
Right. What about the candidates themselves?
Oh, yes.
How do they fit into this vision of Ethical conduct.
Well, they have this model code of conduct that every candidate and party has to follow. Prevents things that could undermine the election.
Like what?
Like bribing voters or making inflammatory speeches.
Okay, so it's not just about how the election is run. It's about how it's contested.
Exactly. Level playing field. No unethical tactics.
So they're referees and the ethics committee all in one.
You could say that.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's a big responsibility, and they take it seriously.
They do.
They understand that people need to believe in the process.
Right. If people lose faith in the election, the whole thing falls apart.
Exactly. Public trust is the foundation of a democracy.
So that's what it all comes down to.
The Election Commission is all about building and maintaining that trust.
Now, you mentioned that they've been praised for their work.
I have.
But they've also been criticized.
Of course. No one's perfect.
Right. What are some of the challenges they've faced?
One of the big ones is money and muscle power.
Yeah, the age-old problem.
Campaign finance, influence of powerful people.
How have they tried to deal with that?
Well, they've tried a lot of things.
Okay.
Limits on campaign spending.
Right.
Candidates have to disclose their assets, and they've been trying to stop illegal activities.
So making it more transparent, trying to level the playing field.
That's the idea.
But hasn't this been a problem for a long time?
It has, and it's still a big challenge.
Right.
Money can find ways around the rules.
Yeah, it always does.
It's a constant battle.
Cat and mouse game.
You could say that.
High stakes.
Very high stakes.
The integrity of our democracy depends on it.
Exactly, making sure elections actually represent the people.
It's a reminder that democracy is a work in progress, right?
It is.
Always evolving, always trying to stay true to its values.
And the Election Commission is at the heart of that struggle.
Yeah, it is. This has been really eye-opening.
It's a complex topic.
We've talked about their principles, the challenges.
The people involved.
Learned so much about how elections work in India.
It's fascinating.
But our deep dive isn't over yet.
No, not yet.
Stick with us. We're going even deeper into the Election Commission. The people who make it all happen, how it all works on the inside.
The nuts and bolts.
Stay tuned. Okay, so we've covered the Election Commission's powers. We've talked about their principles, the challenges they face.
Lots of moving parts.
But what about the people who make all this happen, right? Who are the folks behind this massive operation?
It's a great question because, you know, beyond the 3 commissioners at the top, there's this whole network of dedicated individuals working hard to make sure elections run smoothly.
So it's not just a small team in Delhi making all the decisions.
Oh, no, not at all.
There must be people all over the country on the ground.
Absolutely. It's a huge decentralized operation.
Wow.
At the national level, you have the Election Commission, supported by deputy election commissioners.
Okay.
They're usually from the civil services.
Makes sense.
Then there's the Secretariat, with officials responsible for different parts of the process.
So this is like a layered structure?
Very much so.
Experts in different areas.
Keeping everything running.
Wow, okay. And does this go beyond just the national level?
Absolutely. At the state level, you have the chief electoral officer. Working with the state government to coordinate everything.
Yeah, that makes sense because the elections are actually happening in the states.
Exactly. They need someone there to manage things.
What about the district level? India's huge.
Yeah.
How do they manage elections in all those different districts?
That's where the district returning officer comes in.
Okay.
Usually it's the district collector.
Oh, interesting.
They oversee the actual conduct of elections in their district.
So the district collector has a lot on their plate.
They do. They wear many hats.
One day it's admin stuff, the next day it's elections.
That's right. They play a key role in making sure things are fair and efficient.
At the grassroots level.
Right down to the local level.
It's amazing how all these officials, from the national level to the districts, they all work together.
It's a massive team effort.
To uphold democracy.
It really shows how big and complex elections are in India.
It does. It does. And it doesn't stop there, right?
No, it keeps going.
Each constituency must have its own team managing things.
Of course. In each constituency, you have returning officers overseeing the whole process, from nominations to counting the votes.
Start to finish.
And then, under them, there are presiding officers for each polling booth.
Wow.
They make sure things run smoothly for the voters.
It's like this massive web of people all connected.
Working together to make it all happen.
Incredible.
It's really an incredible feat of organization.
It is. It is.
And, you know, for those UPSC aspirants out there, understanding this whole system is so important.
Yeah. You might be a part of it someday.
You never know. You could find yourself working in the Election Commission.
I can imagine it's one thing to read about it in a textbook.
Right.
But to actually see the human side of it, all these people working to make democracy work.
It's inspiring. It is. It really is.
It reminds us that behind all the laws and institutions,